Guys, good morning to everyone. We've decided to try a new format on YouTube, a vlog, you could say. I'm heading to the ROTO factory in Noginsk with Antoha, my cameraman. They have a grand day today. Today is actually ROTO Day. The ceremony is called Art in Details. This is an annual ROTO ceremony where they highlight the main players in the window market and award them in various ceremonies. Today there will also be discussions about aluminum and PVC fittings. Well, ROTO is generally a large global corporation in Russia for the production of fittings for PVC and aluminum. We will now take a look at their factory. There will be a tour. The factory in Noginsk is really large. Everything is produced here. And then in the evening there will be a ceremony which is also quite interesting. The entire elite of the Russian window industry will probably be there. There will be many owners and representatives of various companies. Some people know me and I know some of them. Well, in general, we'll get acquainted, chat, and you'll spend this wonderful day with me. So friends, we have finally arrived at the ROTO factory. Now I will show you everything. This is their showroom, and we will take a look at everything. There's a small buffet here, and then we'll go to the production area, where the most interesting part will be. This is ROTO's chief aluminum specialist. How many years have you been doing this, at ROTO specifically?
10 years at ROTO.
10 years, can you imagine? The person has been doing this for 10 years. Is it aluminum or everything generally?
We have a corporate sales department, which mainly includes the aluminum direction.
Well, I've known Alexander for a long time. Whenever I have a question, I immediately know who to turn to. He always helps.
Well, maybe not always as quickly as one would like, but I will definitely help.
When was this plant built?
The plant was built in Dutz in 2008. The area of the enterprise, including additional premises and the showroom, is about 9,500 square meters. The total area of the plant, including the land plot, is about 12,000 square meters.
Here we have both production and warehouse products.
Our production complex and warehouse complex are located 3 kilometers from here. There are separate warehouses there. Also a large area, about 5,000 square meters. That's where our warehouse facilities are located, from which, in fact, the finished products are shipped
to the entire territory of Russia.
Absolutely correct. And not only the products manufactured here, but also those received.
Is this the only plant in Russia, or are there others in the territory of Russia?
The ROTO plant is the only one.
I see. And the ROTO representation, did it appear with the creation of the plant, or was it there before?
It appeared earlier. That is, first there was the representation, technical service, then the sales volumes grew, increased. We came to the conclusion that we needed a production site, specifically in Russia, Kupisa, to provide our clients and partners as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Is all ROTO's production manufactured here at the plant, or only partially?
No, within the ROTO group of companies. There are about 14 plants. Each plant specializes in a specific type of product. Here at the ROTO Russia plant, we mainly manufacture ROTO NT, NX fittings, respectively for PVC, Beide, and wood. All other products are imported from abroad. This includes aluminum, sliding systems, door groups, and so on.
I see. ROTO is represented in all cities of Russia, as far as I understand?
In all major ones. That is regional. Practically all republic centers, regional centers, and so on. There are ROTO offices or ROTO representatives everywhere.
Do you know what market share ROTO holds in the fittings market?
Well,
approximately.
It varies. Well, probably around 40%, I would say.
So they are like the giants of the market, you could say?
It's a large segment that we occupy, and we constantly strive to increase our share in various segments. That is not only in PVC, but also in aluminum, wood, and so on. In various types of systems, not only window systems, but also door systems, sliding systems, and so on. So we are constantly adding more clients.
Well, I can add from my side that I constantly use ROTO. ROTO simply has solutions that no one else has. For example, in aluminum, there are concealed hinges for up to 180 kilograms and sash heights up to 3 meters. No other hardware in the world can offer this, and it's really cool. Then there are locks for balcony doors that connect with hardware rods with a specific backset, and so on. So I work very closely with ROTO, and I like many of their products. We actively use them. So ROTO, respect, well done.
And since 2019, we have been involved in the aluminum market, and there is a stereotype that ROTO is a PVC structure, that it is mainly PVC hardware. And we had to break this market stereotype in 3 years and trying to prove that we are also very strong in aluminum. That's it. And of course, we were pressured by the authority of our brothers. They are number one in the world and in Russia in terms of turnover. And so we also set a goal for ourselves to become #1 in turnover in Russia within 3 years. Yes. And as a result, by the end of 2022, we officially hold the first place in Russia in terms of turnover in the aluminum segment, that is, among aluminum fittings. So for us, these were 3 very intense years of work. We focused on the project business, where our strength lies. Well, we have a great engineering product, the concealed hinge group, which you talk about in your video blogs. This is our strong point, the concealed hinge group. We call it designo, although our viewers might not all know this. Some call it designo and so on, but the correct name is alu designo. Yes, it's something in the Italian style. So alu designo, that's what we call it, alu. We've accustomed the market to this hardware. In about 3 years, we've implemented over 100 projects. This includes Moscow, all of Russia, and Vladivostok. And as for our other frontiers, we are practically everywhere in projects with the entire system.
It's just cool that this hardware comes in different weight categories. And that's great because you don't always need very metal-intensive, heavy hinges. Well, it amazes me, and I've already mentioned that there are concealed hinges for 180 kilograms at 3 meters in height. That's just out of this world. Only ROTO has something like this. And we actually use it because now people, especially in private projects like in individual housing construction, they all want the sash to be as tall as possible, like 3 meters or 2.8. And unfortunately, apart from ROTO, no one else can do this.
Well, you're absolutely right. If we look at the evolution regarding double-glazed windows, the guys in related fields will say that in the last 10 years, double-glazed windows have grown significantly. Everyone wants this window. And the business class itself is, of course, aluminum, because all these designers want to draw these large openings. And of course, we needed to offer our partners, the market in general, as we know, developers or builders, a product that suits them. ROTO has this product, Yamamishi Odabasa. We adapted it for the Russian market and brought it to the warehouse, located in Noginsk. And with the help of our large team, we have 34 as service engineers, as we call them. Our large team is spread across all of Russia, from Vladivostok to Kaliningrad. We have structures. This team has significantly expanded our product and warehouse and so on. Therefore, we believe that these were a very good 3 years. But here's the main thing. Now that we've achieved results, we need to maintain them. Therefore, this year, we will be launching new products. We will be developing the door segment. We don't have the strongest positions in the door segment. You often talk about doors. We will have new solutions in handles. We will talk more about this. We have automatic systems. We have a strong friction hinge system. We are currently taking over projects in Russia. Therefore, our success lies in the window segment. ROTO company has a huge range of aluminum products, so we will be talking about it, highlighting it, selling it, and implementing projects of various types. So we still have a lot of work to do, Artem, a lot.
By the way, there is currently a problem in the market with concealed drives. You have them E-Tech, right? That's what they're called?
E-Tech drive, yes.
E-Tech drive, also a great product from ROTO, concealed.
You can even see we have a chevron on our jacket, yes, E-Tech drive. We are promoting it. Our guests have arrived.
And I want to point out that ROTO's door hardware is really developing. These are concealed hinges, various automatic locks, push fittings. So be sure to pay attention.
Yes.
So, in general, we were finally allowed into the factory. It was very strict about this here. ROTO is doing a great job in this regard. And we are now in the testing laboratory where they take finished products and directly test them, various impacts like precipitation, wind, rain. I'm not exactly sure what. But roughly speaking, the advantage of ROTO is that you can take any product and test it here in practice, not just in theory. Well, basically, our factory testing center is an in-house facility. Here we evaluate the hardware as part of the window structure, the ability to evaluate. That is, it's not just the indicators of the hardware itself, right, which are evaluated during tests for GOST requirements, for example, or say UM 328 European standards, right? Here specifically, it shows how the hardware works as part of the system. The profile hardware system, the glass profile system, profile sealing, and so on, and so on. What types of tests? Can you briefly, what to test? We can test input. There is a large stand for air-tightness accordingly, and there is a stand for durability. So actually this is, and thermal characteristics, of course. On the air-tightness stand, there is a special water, air, static wind loads. Water, air.
It is checked according to the air-tightness mode of the window itself as a whole.
So we test the thermal resistance as well, right? I understand the indicators. It is possible. This is a little not our topic. Thermal resistance is mainly tested and measured by profile manufacturers. For them, this is a more important indicator. Yes, we mainly test and check the fittings in constructions for air-tightness. Yes, I understand. Here we can apply wind pressure. We have nozzles that can spray water directly onto the sash. We can apply quite a large wind pressure, up to 1600 to 1800 pascals. That is, these are really hurricane-like conditions, so to speak. In other words, here we simulate the real operation of a window structure. That is not in calculated values, but here we can observe how the physical processes, or roughly speaking, weather conditions affect a particular window structure. In other words, whether we are on the right path in design or not. The air-tightness test stand, here we have the opportunity to test not just the hardware, but as part of the window structure, subjecting it to various climatic, let's say, tests. We can supply a large volume of water. We can apply wind pressure through this remarkable turbine. It has a built-in refrigerator, meaning we can ensure such a temperature inside the chamber down to minus 35 degrees. So let's imagine here we have a room, the interior part, and over there we have the street. Accordingly, what level of air-tightness do you achieve? So the window is placed like this. Yes, the window is placed in a special frame. Here a special sealing rubber is clamped with clamps to the rubber. Accordingly, it is checked. There is a special chip. But here on the side, there's a hole. There are special panels that, yes, they are installed. It depends on this part. It goes down, goes up. We assemble it with modular panels. Yes, 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 yes. But the minimum window size, let's say, in terms of width, well, the structure, let's say, is 1,100 millimeters. 1,100 by 1,100, a cube like that. Yes, that is, you can make it a fixed sash. All right. A simple question, a private client, let's say, has a nice cottage, expensive, roughly, I don't know, 10 to 15 million. And he says, I want ROTO hardware, but I want my window to be tested. Is that possible? Is this a very expensive service? Can an ordinary window manufacturer like us afford it for a client? Yes. It's a tool, essentially. It's designed to, it can help sell, right? That is, of course, it's a reason sale, let's say. It's the difference, no? For example, between one construction and another. Because often different people make the offer. They look at the price and immediately start, oh, it's cheaper here. They seem to have the same thing. Why is it more expensive with you, for example? But when we make a window, we have various factors, not just the profile, let's say, but also the manufacturing of the window construction, let's say, the installation of fittings, adjustments. And can we even bring the client here if necessary or not? Or is it more complicated? We bring corporate clients with us. For example, if we are working with aluminum on projects, we often conduct sub-object tests of a specific construction from a specific project here, so that our client, for instance, the developer, can be confident that the solutions we have incorporated into our construction will allow him to guarantee the quality of the window construction for a sufficiently long time. Because developers in turn sell apartments, and they provide a warranty on the apartment, including the windows. Yes, I understand. And the fewer problems there are, the more peace of mind he will have, and the less money he will spend on correcting various, let's say, inaccuracies. Therefore, it's better to first meet here, see how the structure behaves, and understand that, for example, over a conditional 10 years of operation, no problems are expected with what we have designed here, and we can confidently move on to mass production, because here we can check the ceiling. What is the usual testing cycle? The structure is installed, tests for sealing are conducted, then it is removed, placed on a durability stand for 20,000 cycles as required by the Russian GOST, and after that, it is tested for sealing again. So after, yes. So here we push the structure to its limits. Here we maximize, we exploit it to the fullest. We exploit it. Like in IKEA, remember the sofas? There's a press that pushes on the sofas. So this is the very press that pushes on the sofas. Here, the ceiling works. Accordingly, we observe how the hardware behaves. And here, it's not just closed, the handle is moved. That is, here we have a complete simulation of the daily use of a window structure. 20,000 cycles. The test lasts, well, if done properly without any holidays or days off, about a month and a half. A month and a half of opening and closing the window. No kidding, the window here opens and closes on average 100 cycles per hour. 100 cycles per hour. Here on the screen, the number of cycles is displayed. This is the tilt and turn cycle, or just the turn cycle if the window is a turn type. Accordingly, all the hardware moves. So it's not just closing and opening, the handle is turned. The handle is turned in the opposite direction. The seals wear out, the hardware wears out, and after that, we put it back here and see what was before and what is after. Does it actually get worse in practice? It does get worse. But there are companies that manage to, let's say, stay in the same class. Well, the difference in readings might be around 20%, for example, but the class of the window construction in terms of air, for instance, or water remains the same. This means that the materials that were used in the design of the window structure are of high quality, and after 10 years of operation, they will lose only, say, 15 to 20% of their, well, what deteriorates more? The fittings or more the seals? What wears out? Everything wears out. If you look at the hardware after testing, it can be quite worn. You can already see that the strike plates, obviously they rub there. Of course, there are shavings somewhere, something here and there. Well, I mean, it works without any tricks and bears the weight of the construction from the site. So just like there's a double glazed unit, we make, say, 2 panes of glass or some kind of sandwich, and the light sash spins endlessly. So if the sash on the side is 80 kilograms, then it will be 80 kilograms here as well. Got it. Well, that's cool. Well, kind of. How else? So, dear customers, if you want to test a window, you have the opportunity to do it with ROTO hardware at the ROTO factory. So take advantage of it. Write to me saying, Artem, I want to test a window, and we'll make it happen.
So we are currently in the laboratory, right?
Well, yes, here we have...
There's a testing center over there, and here's the laboratory. What do they do in the laboratory?
Well, there are several laboratories here. Here is the product quality control department. That's one. This is the incoming materials inspection. This is the process control accordingly that takes place in production. Creation of quality control processes. Daily quality control of the products being released. Risky. Accordingly, the parts that are produced here, in coordination with the engineering center, for new elements being developed by the ROTO Corporation. And here, pre-tests are conducted and reports are created to understand.
What are we checking? What here? The quality of the metal or what?
The quality of the metal, the quality of the coating. Accordingly, the quality of the assembly is checked. All the processes that occur in production, in principle, all quality control is concentrated in this...
About these devices?
In the department.
Can you talk about them?
Well, yes, this is a magnifier. With it, essentially, under high magnification, you can evaluate the geometry of various parts, their compliance with the drawing, tolerances, and so on. Output all the information accordingly to digitize it, output it in certain formats for communication with the design department in Germany. Here is a machine for quality control of steel, essentially a tensile machine where the workpiece is compressed and stretching occurs.
It's a tensile machine?
Yes, and it checks accordingly the indicators
of strength.
The strength of the steel, yes. Here we have a stand. This is for evaluating the quality of the galvanic coating. Here, under certain lighting, the color spectrum of the coating is examined, and additionally, the thickness of the coating is measured after it arrives from the company.
Is there some kind of system, I don't know, like placing this part in an aggressive environment and observing over time what happens to it?
Yes, there is. It's in the adjacent laboratory. We'll go there. Yes, here we conduct tests that are not related, let's say, to the use of any salt chambers, for example. We have a separate salt chamber. There is climate control, and there we evaluate exactly those parameters you mentioned.
How long do these parameters take? I mean, do you place the part there for a whole year, or how does it work?
We follow our internal standards. Accordingly, ROTO Frank and the requirements of the Russian GOST. Well, the 4th class of corrosion resistance indicates that the part must withstand 240 hours of salt spray before red rust appears.
And what is salt spray? Is it, so it's the most aggressive
Yes, it is.
environment that can exist, right?
Yes, it's a saline solution that is sprayed into a chamber, a fine mist of salt. And accordingly, it creates highly corrosive conditions under which, well, since the fittings are made of metal...
If nothing happens after 240 hours, then everything is great.
Yes. Well, there are certain stages, yes, like the appearance of white residue. Well, for different parts, for different coatings, there are their own stages. Yes, that is, for example, drum coatings like galvanizing have their own timelines and standards, while, for example, bath coatings have different timelines. Yes, so there is a difference here.
What is happening here? Quality inspection of the coating. We receive it from our supplier. Every week, from each batch of parts, we select a few pieces, place them in a salt spray chamber, and here they are in a 5% sodium chloride solution. That is, it's regular table salt. Yes, just chemically pure in distilled water, which is specially prepared using a water treatment station. I can show you what it looks like. So it's like this, yes. Oh, wow. They stay here for a certain amount of time. The tests take about 3 weeks, and then the quality of the parts is checked, specifically for the presence of white and red corrosion and compliance with the requirements of internal standards. As in any laboratory, the most important thing is the strict adherence to all standard requirements. Accordingly, you need to be very precise in preparing the water to ensure everything is correct. The preparation of the solution must be done correctly. there are specific requirements for density and pH value, because if the solution is made slightly more acidic or slightly more alkaline, the test result will already be incorrect. Therefore, in general, it can be said that ROTO hardware complies with GOST and even exceeds GOST in some parameters. Yes, yes. Do you provide any, do you have certificates, right? There are some documents confirming this, I understand, right?
Well, since we conduct checks for compliance with internal requirements, we do not issue any separate certificates for quality, including corrosion resistance. All our hardware is generally tested entirely once a year. Previously, it was VFT, Rosenheim.
And Rosenheim is a world-renowned testing center in Germany, right?
Yes, yes. But tests are also conducted, and
roughly speaking, you have tests in Rosenheim that are certified there, right? Are they conducted there once a year, or how?
Yes, standard QM 328 tests are conducted fully for durability, compliance with corrosion resistance, and some other tests, that is, for durability. Individual elements are tested, destructive testing is conducted, that is, there is a whole set of tests conducted based on the results of which a certificate of compliance is issued.
And here, it turns out, this is your internal...
Here it is part, yes, of the testing, because
to guarantee the quality of the final product.
The quality of the entire structure consists of the quality of individual elements, wall connections, and so on. Here is where the creation of this quality structure begins, with checking the quality of the coating, and then continues.
How often do you select samples? After how long is this batch there? How many pieces? After how long?
Well, let's say it literally happens once a week.
Samples are selected once a week, and all these tests are established.
Everything comes from the supplier, as it were, from their processes. It's clear that if all this is coated in galvanic baths,
and they don't exist for just one day, right? Roughly speaking, if the bath is ready for production, its parameters are stable and maintained, then there's no need to check it every day.
In practice, have you had cases where the quality of the received parts did not meet standards and you provided feedback to the supplier and they made some adjustments on their end, adjusted the equipment? I don't know, were there any?
Well, first of all, we are constantly in contact with the supplier. We have periodic meetings, conferences, yes, gatherings. And since, in principle, the supplier has a high level of quality and production, it doesn't happen that they supply us with defective goods. Mainly these tests work to identify any weak points and potential for improvement. That is, we see that there are some things that need attention. We inform the supplier about this, and accordingly, we plan some activities together. It is also very important that similar tests are conducted at the supplier's site and were previously conducted in Germany. That is, the parts we select from the incoming inspection. From the same batch, we send for counter tests to the supplier and to Germany. The supplier has the same salt spray chamber with the same salt settings, consumption, and so on, and the same in Germany. And simultaneously, the parts are tested in 3 chambers. That is, at the suppliers, at our site, and in Germany. And this ensures, firstly, the impartiality of the results, because at the suppliers, well, it might always be good. And at our site,
you could even say that it turns out the Germans, as the parent company, are even controlling your production in this way to ensure that you comply with the standards here.
They are more like an independent controller, which in principle, we are completely autonomous here, and they trust us. Our results do not raise any doubts. But as a backup, yes, so that if any contentious issue arises, we will have test results from Germany as well.
Right now we are in the assembly room where the samples for testing are directly prepared for the tests. For this, we use an assembly stand, which is also used by our colleagues for conducting supervision assemblies. Well, we mainly don't need its wide capabilities. We specifically need to use it in the center exclusively as a table on this table.
So the point here is that an arched window, for example, can't be, right? Clamped into the test chamber, so you made a kind of frame for it.
Moreover, I'll say no window can be clamped without an appropriate test frame because it will exert
Pressure on the structure?
pressure on the structure, yes. And plus, the essence of our test is we simulate on-site tests. So our window should be formally fixed in the wall.
In the area, right?
Yes, instead of this part of the load-bearing structure, like the wall, we simply make a frame out of timber. This is most noticeable on an arched window. If the window is of a standard rectangular shape, then we wrap such a timber around the perimeter and clamp this timber. And from it, we make, so to speak, an element that imitates the wall into which the window is installed.
They bring you the window, right?
Yes, they bring the window.
You don't make the window yourself?
No. The client does everything. He provides a sample for testing, which he plans to use later on some project. And then we, using our tests, simulate all the conditions that he will have on the project. That is temperature, altitude, wind at height, rain. All of this will be simulated on the stands located in the next room behind the wall. Here we also have this kind of stand. It is mainly used for preparation, for installation, and partly for preparation if, for example, the window needs to be repackaged. A vertical glazing stand. The sample is clamped here.
Repackage, adjust the hardware? Yes, roughly speaking.
Adjusting the hardware, in principle, can even be done directly on the stand. And here, for example, if you need to unpack and repackage the glass unit, that's it.
I understand. Stretch the diagonals?
Yes, well, yes, this is mainly a preparation area and also my workspace where I make the protocol. And all the main action takes place behind the wall in the middle room where we actually have the stands.
Tell us some impressive numbers. I don't know, like how many pieces you make per day, per month, how many employees are here? Some large-scale numbers that would really surprise us.
Well, what impressive numbers? Well, one of them is that in October of this year, the factory will be 15 years old. This is, in principle, quite an impressive number for us.
Yes, 3 years.
The number of employees varies significantly from year to year. Currently, it's no more than 250 people.
Well, that's already large scale.
Another impressive thing.
How about the production?
In terms of production, we produce over 1 million finished products per month.
1 million finished products?
More than 1 million.
More than 1 million? Well, that's serious. Does the factory operate around the clock or in shifts? Well, like just one shift or what?
Currently, considering today's market and its realities, we work in 2 shifts of 8 hours each. Before that, throughout our 15-year journey, there were different times, and we even worked in 3 shifts. Yes, so that's how the market behaves now.
You probably have some deputies, right? You can't live here around the clock.
Listen, I only took on this responsibility from the 1st of February. But of course, the team is long-standing. The company, ROTO Frank, is family-owned. So all the employees who work here have been with us for 5, 10, 15 years. And there are even employees who have been with ROTO for 25 years. The team is cohesive. The team is strong. In fact, the team can handle anything. Everything is within their reach. Therefore, of course, the foundation is extremely strong.
Do you have any goals, plans, like ambitious ones to reach 2 million or something?
Well, first of all, I think the window market knows very well that ROTO is currently launching its new product, Wideman hardware.
I haven't heard of that.
On all portals of the window industry.
But it's probably for PVC windows? I still have my doubts.
Of course, for PVC. Well, the main powerful market is PVC wood.
Will they ever produce aluminum here?
Aluminum?
Well, it's just that the volumes aren't the kind to produce locally. It's easier to bring it from Germany?
Yes. In the ROTO group of companies, there are, well, dozens of factories, and each of them specializes in something. We have a factory in Germany in the city of Ferber, which specializes specifically in the production of hardware for aluminum windows. That's their direction.
It's a separate equipment. It's a completely separate business, you could even say.
Yes, completely different. We have a different focus. We focus on PVC wood. So ROTO NX, ROTO NT are our main products. And the new product that we are actively bringing to the market is the Wideman B100 hardware.
Can we guarantee to our subscribers, really assure them that the hardware produced here is not worse than that produced in Germany?
We can guarantee that it is better.
Better?
Well, look, first of all, the ROTO group of companies has a unified quality management system.
So the control of all factories.
There are target indicators, and we have consistently been in the top 3 for many years in terms of quality which is the number of complaints per million products sold.
In short, our people can make great hardware.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, will you show us how it all happens?
Right behind us is the tool shop, so to speak, the hardware. Since you know that we are engaged in stamping, cold stamping, accordingly, our tool inventory includes that more than 500 units of cold stamping dies. We can actually observe it with you, right?
Got it. So this is a die that manufactures some type of part.
This is a die that performs its specific function, a hole or a slot or several holes. How does it work? During retooling, the press frame is equipped with tools ranging from 30 to 60 different dies, right? Accordingly, the distances between the dies are set. The first part is produced, and it is checked for geometry using a laser measuring device, which we can look at a bit later. Then the production process continues with constant monitoring every half hour by the stamping press operator. For this, he has all the necessary control tools, documentation, drawings.
Does the operator control according to the regulations?
Yes, the main principle of Roto Frank's quality management system is that whoever produces the product is responsible for its quality. Not the quality department, which we also have, of course.
It's like Kaizen, don't accept defects, don't produce defects, don't pass on defects. It's a philosophy of, you could say.
Therefore, the task of the quality department is precisely for these people who produce the product, to train, to develop all the necessary methodologies for them, to provide them with the necessary calibrated and verified measuring tools, to ensure that they do everything correctly and reliably, and that there is complete consistency and reproducibility of results between them, between different operators. And accordingly, all of this then works autonomously. The person themselves makes the decision about quality during the production process, whether the product is acceptable or not, without the involvement of the quality department. That's the task.
So guys, now we are in the heart of the ROTA company, the factory. This is directly the line where all this happens, processing of blanks, products. It's noisy here, of course, because the presses are working. The factory is not standing still. They are constantly producing something. So sorry if it's a bit noisy, but we tried to make the sound as good as possible.
Well, as you know, yes, the main raw material for stamping is steel-shaped profile.
Hair, right?
That is, yes, it's a low-carbon steel strip of different geometries.
Is it of Russian production?
It is now and has been for more than 10 years. Yes, it is of Russian production. We actively localized and we succeeded. We are currently actively collaborating with a company, which I cannot name. That's it. But the quality in general satisfies us, of course. Quite, yes. Mainly, two assortments are used. This is the so-called narrow profile for the internal drive part, which moves the window by the handle movement. Yes, all the elements. And the so-called wide profile, simply put, the mullion, which accordingly, when opening the window.
And these corner switches, are they also made from this strip?
Yes, it's from the same strip. Since the hardware groove is standard, more or less around 16 to 17 millimeters, the entire outer part is made from this mullion or wide profile.
And what about these strikes there, the cams?
No, if we're talking about strikes, that's the frame part of the hardware. Yes. They are made, no, it's casting, zinc casting. These are zinc casting machines.
In short, two types of strips are stamped, Paina plus some cast parts in the complex. In the end, with the help of certain processes, you get the hardware.
Well, the main material consumption is still the narrow and wide strip, yes. The hardware, of course, also consists of zinc casting parts, plastic casting, cold heading parts, and machine parts. These are various fasteners that we will look at a bit later, assembled into a finished product, either automatically or semi-automatically on the conveyor line.
One production line or several lines?
Well, if we are talking about stamping, then these are large presses for the production of, accordingly, a series of main locks up to balcony ones, that is more than 2 meters. The small presses, which you can observe there, yes, are for the production of some small hinge groups, some small rods, small locks. We don't do everything at the factory in Noginsk. There is equipment in the overall set, in the kit, that is made only by our group of companies' factories in Germany or China. There it is, the beauty.
Awesome. These are blanks, right?
Yes, this is after the press, accordingly. We get a blank, a mullion profile, which accordingly has a hardware groove.
And does the press punch everything out immediately, or does it?
No, the press usually takes there from 2 to 4 strokes for a certain length. Well, that's 4 times, for example.
Is this part made on one press or on different ones?
This part is made on one press, but there is of course, the possibility to make it on all similar ones.
And on the press, there are different dies, and it goes like ting, 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 right, separately?
Yes, everything is not punched out at once. Accordingly, it advances step by step. For example, conditionally 300 millimeters, one group of holes is punched, another advance of 300 millimeters, another group of holes. And from the fourth step, we get a finished stamped product.
Cool, damn, I'll figure out how all this is done. This is interesting.
As you have already seen, our raw material, the steel profile strip, is fed into the press. The press, as I mentioned, has two lines, one for the narrow strip and one for the wide. We produce accordingly orders for the wide and narrow strips in parallel. There are two accumulators where we load this. The strip is unwound, and before it enters the press, it must undergo stress relief to eliminate the springiness of the strip. Moreover, the force has to be constantly adjusted, because the closer we get to the end of the coil, the more springiness there is in this diameter. The diameter does not become smaller then. We need to compensate for this a little.
Does all of this work in automatic mode, right?
Yes, it all happens automatically. Accordingly, when the strip...
So this is necessary for the strip to become perfectly straight from a round coil. That's why this machine straightens it. Understood. Accordingly, before entering the press, to ensure feeding, immediately at a large step, a meter or so, there is a specific loop accumulator. So the strip is straightened, then it goes into such a loop.
And is then fed further by rollers onto the ball. No, it is already maximally relaxed. Absolutely correct, yes.
And then it's cut into some blanks, right?
Yes, accordingly further.
Depending on the length, depending on the part.
Absolutely correct.
I see.
When the strip ends, accordingly the accumulator turns. A new coil is already loaded there, and butt welding of the last end with the end of the new strip is done. There is a special machine for this.
They weld it? Why?
Weld it. Well,
Continued?
the process continued.
Can this weld spot end up in the part?
No, it cannot, because it is firstly cleaned so that nothing gets into the inter-die space, and it is marked with a special marker to ensure that this first part is caught and discarded.
Is it marked by someone, or?
Yes, by the operator, who ensures the welding and cleaning of the strip.
He marks it, then it is cut out.
Then he must definitely catch all these segments. The number of these segments must match the number of coils changed today.
If anything, has it ever not matched?
It hasn't happened.
That's good.
What's most interesting, right? If we take any product, you see a huge number of stamps here, and they are not here by chance. First of all,
Marking, right?
marking, yes. Of the drawing, for example, yes, which must be done accordingly. Various markings there. Well, first of all, the installation direction, lubricate periodically, once a year. And most interestingly, there are additional internal markings of the company, yes, which allow for reverse traceability of each specific part to the results of its measurement on the corresponding measuring equipment. Yes, absolutely. That is, any part, if it is received as a complaint from a client, we can use this marking to determine the production press, the day of production, the batch size, and all measurement results of this batch. Absolutely all holes, yes. To see the true dimensions, whether there were deviations or not. So all of this is available to us, yes, and we use it if necessary.
When our blanks are ready, we then proceed to the process of their...
Well, of course, not immediately. Once the blanks are ready, they need to be sent for galvanization first, to be coated with zinc to give them corrosion resistance. Because
so
the fittings work in the window.
this strip, it's not galvanized right away, it's just ordinary, in fact.
Yes.
Then the parts are riveted. Well, of course, if we rivet in the galvanization, there will be spots without galvanization, and we need it to be completely covered.
Therefore,
Prepared the parts, sent them for galvanization.
received them, checked them, and then submitted them for the necessary assembly order. Then certain necessary components are added, whether they are plastic, castings, clips, or locking cams, or various connecting pins that will later connect within the fittings.
The cams, yes, they are riveted directly onto this part, right?
Yes, and here we are standing right by the semi-automatic production line where the riveting of connections and installation of certain plastic elements are done. And at the output, we see the packaging of the finished product.
Almost in an automatic mode, right? The employees only sort the parts and stack them in boxes, right?
In this case, yes, it's a semi-automatic. We also have assembly lines and fully automatic machines. In this case, yes, this is a semi-automatic operated by 2 operators. Accordingly, there is a supply of the main rods at one workstation, while other small components are automatically fed into the drum, through the drum, and along the rails to the riveting or installation area.
And why circular? Because each operator has their own role. One supplies this, another supplies a different part, right? And it kind of goes in a cycle.
Small parts fed auto.
Then after completing the cycle, the finished part comes out.
Exactly right. And so, accordingly, the third person is in charge of packaging. This person packages it all, and we get a bundle of 10 pieces of ROTA's consistently excellent quality product.
Well, we've already understood that.
Guys, we have ended up in the so-called key shock floor zone, as it's beautifully named in English. Now Vitaliy will tell us what it actually is.
Well, it's very simple. Every single day in the morning, the plant director and his main subordinates gather here, including managers of the main processes like stamping, assembly, tool production, and production support services, to discuss the results of the previous day. How much did we produce in one department, in another, and did we have any problems? All indicators are met. And if there are any deviations, then a ready solution must be proposed. Immediately and recorded on the board, you see, with actions and deadlines, right? This is how operational management takes place, where everyone exchanges information. We know how we spent the previous day.
How long does this meeting take?
It takes no more than 15 minutes.
Oh, that's quick.
To avoid wasting time, yes. Colleagues already come prepared, of course, each with their own set of numbers and indicators. Simultaneously, there is an opportunity to display additional statistics on two screens, if there's a need to dig a little deeper somewhere to take a look. And in this way, we make the main decisions about where we are heading next. Is everything going well, or do we need to stop somewhere to make adjustments?
But do you have some kind of management team, like, I don't know, an optimization manager or a specialist in production processes or something like that? Maybe a Kaizen expert? I'm not sure. So is there a group of people responsible for implementing these changes, innovations, or who is in charge of all this?
There is no specific person. Everyone here is a specialist, because there is the concept of a production system rotation.
No, but an operator can't produce parts either.
And people are certainly integrated into it as well.
Well, of course, because they provide ideas. They understand what is needed in some process.
The philosophy of quality management in Ron's production system permeates from top to bottom, undoubtedly, otherwise it simply wouldn't work. We use a lot of tools.
More correctly, not from top to bottom, but from bottom to top.
No, but still.
Yes? No, wait.
Still, why from top to bottom? Because the implementation of tools and new improvement policies accordingly comes from the top. Why? Referring to the general ones, right? We observe with you that now our production system, the production system rotation, and its foundation, we can see the entire thing accordingly created from the main.
In short, what are these beautiful words? What is RPS?
Well, people familiar with quality management, with the Toyota production system, generally know all these concepts very well. This is SMED, quick changeover, the Kanban system, full production management. This is autonomous quality, which I told you about, where everyone is responsible for the product they made here and now. This is the 5S system, cleanliness, order, sorting, and so on. This is the Six Sigma system, a system of statistical process control and predicting defect levels, even before such defects occur, right? This is the office ROTA system, meaning order in the office on sorting and workplace standards. This is the WSM system, which involves mapping and creating a value stream where the entire chain from product manufacturing to additional stages of its return up to the finished goods warehouse is taken and value creating. And non-value creating steps, intermediate storage, and so on are studied. And the task, accordingly, is to streamline and reduce the time it takes for your entire product to go through the chain.
I understand.
This is the TPM system, which is total productive maintenance. We have a lot of equipment, you've seen it, right? Automatics, semi-automatics, and stamping presses, and so on. This is CAF ALP, essentially a system of continuous improvement. All processes must be continuously improved because there is always potential. And here, precisely as we were discussing, the people who work as operators on the assembly lines, the pluses, we primarily expect the ideas and suggestions from them because the person on the spot always sees, they always know better where something is going wrong. And we, sitting in the office, don't always know about it.
An example of some improvement?
Yes. Just yesterday, I have on my desk a so-called RAN proposal, or initiative from a person, from the coordinator of the assembly shop, who, when placing the product on the line according to an alternative plan, meaning we don't do this often, but from time to time, noticed that the cycle time of one operation increased significantly. She didn't remain indifferent. She saw that there was very poor positioning of the parts before assembling them. She immediately suggested and sketched a small positioning pin herself. This pin was immediately installed by the setup technician. This is formally documented as a proposal, and of course she will be rewarded as part of the payment, certainly, without a doubt. Because,
roughly speaking, some small
bottleneck,
a small pin sped up the entire process globally?
Yes. The woman was losing time on the last operation at the point of aligning two rods. She couldn't get them into the hole. There was no such device because it was an alternative plan, and we don't often produce the product at this location. This turned out to be our our loss at that moment. The person noticed it even though it was not part of their job responsibilities at all.
And do you actually track how much time you saved there? I don't know.
There is an industrial engineering department,
Precisely, yes, down to the seconds.
which of course knows the tag of each line, each operation, and works on smoothing out these tags, right? On finding and eliminating bottlenecks. And here, in this case, the people who
Well, I mean, it's not just that things got better, but you understand how much better they got, right?
ultimately, we are talking, of course, about saving resources, money, and reducing the cost in the end.
Well, any improvement reduces essentially the production cost of this part, roughly speaking.
Yes,
Understood.
the PDCA cycle, net or Deming cycle, is that cycle of searching and working on errors. Plan, do, check, act. In fact, any complaint, any problem we have is solved using this cycle. There is a standard form, there is a problem, but no solution. There is a system. Accordingly, by asking yourself, defining, going through certain stages, to answer questions, find these solutions, and then implement them, check if they work. Standardize it, make it a standard from this point on. And, if possible, extend it to all similar processes in case there are similar weak points. A classic cycle, if you didn't succeed the first time, you go for a second attempt, and thus the cycle repeats. So, your hypothesis, first time might have been incorrect. If there are any second, third influencing factors on this situation, thus by going through this cycle from start to finish several times, you should completely eliminate the errors. So, and
These kind of these postulates, the philosophy, does it come from Germany or is it your own? And how do you in general develop this topic yourself? Or is it the experience of German colleagues, right? And they tell you how to do it, give you some documents, regulations, I don't know.
well, undoubtedly in the ROTA group of companies, there are several dozen enterprises. There is, of course, Giersbocker main headquarters that sets the trends in which processes we implement, and it is involved in strategic planning. The entire quality management system also exists at the central level and disseminates various initiatives, norms, and tools from the EE, top down to all the factories, which we implement. Naturally, we all move forward in parallel. Each factory may progress at a slightly different pace, but we implement everything centrally.
And does the factory produce these products only for the Russian market, or do some go for export as well?
Including for export, yes.
Yes, I understand. Cool. So you are kind of a link in the large ROTA holding, and accordingly, you fulfill your role. And all of this is managed, well, sort of by a single center. But at the same time, with your autonomy, you can make some suggestions or innovations, and this can even spread to other factories, if anything.
Certainly, we have a certain degree of freedom. Yes, some things are implemented centrally, while others we can implement on our own initiative. We can prepare and test new software for equipment maintenance that the concern, for example, has not yet applied or plans to apply in a few years. And we currently have a local need for it. We can accordingly find such a service provider for ourselves, implement, test, and share the best practice and at our, of course, annual quarterly meetings with all the plants of the ROTA group. If this best practice is needed, important, and accordingly useful to someone, it is certainly taken into work and implemented in parallel.
Do any of your employees undergo training in Germany? New employees or existing ones? How is this post regular, training? Are people sent there? Or is the qualification here already such that you train them yourselves?
Initially, when the plant was opened 15 years ago, or in 2008, all employees of the assembly shop, the main adjusters, the stamping shop, engineers, quality department staff, and other main departments, of course, were sent there to gain direct experience for several months. Then they returned here, and our other European colleagues were also sent here on site. That's how the plant was launched. Then very quickly, everyone accepted and understood this culture. It crystallized here, it started working here, and now it operates autonomously here as well. New people who come to us either integrate into our matrix, our quality and management system, or the system naturally rejects them. Therefore, right now, generally speaking, we don't need any such training. They are, of course, available for all plants. If we implement something new, as I mentioned, launch something, and so on. But we are self-sufficient here now.
Yes. Excellent. Cool. Guys, Alexander Lantsov has joined us. He is the administrative director and the person who was at the very origins of the creation of this plant, almost literally laying the foundation with his own hands.
At the very least, he saw how others laid it.
He knows everything.
and he will now tell us about this strange triangle with some burning squares. I'm shocked. I've already been shown. You will also be shocked now. It's a very cool topic.
Actually, the triangle is not strange. Yes, it's basically a prototype of a rota. Yes, if you can see. Here, a large concentration of a rota. Take all the inscriptions will come together, the letters. But that's not the point. Basically, we made this triangle. Yes, it's a game. It's probably a good intellectual game for our employees, for our clients, which shows how rota essentially works from the inside, the purpose of existence and operation of a particular division of the company, and how this will ultimately affect the final goal of our client. And it's quite interactive. Pull out one of the blocks and we'll see what kind of connection it will be, direct, indirect, sequential, and what will happen in the end. What awaits us if suddenly we don't work poorly, or perform our tasks differently? Well, we probably tried cleaning here and we won't continue with it. The point is that the one directly connected goes out.
So we just pulled out the block called cleaning. It would seem, well, we stopped cleaning. What happens? These processes, they turned off.
Yes, but we missed the most important point. At first, not all the blocks went out, right? Meanwhile, we still had the client and some main processes remained that could also function. But ultimately, yes, as we see at first, not everything goes out. Only some management whose KPIs drop or something else. The client is alive. Yes, the client is here. They are working. They continue to work. It doesn't affect them. But when this structure collapses, ultimately it does have an impact on the client. But yes, and when the client stops buying, it cascades down to all the divisions.
And right away, the question is this all managed by some program?
Yes, definitely.
Is it controlled by a computer? Are all these lights on?
Yes, these are computers. Well, it's not so much computers as it is.
Some kind of electrical system.
It's electrical, mechanical, a bit of this, a bit of that. There is undoubtedly an algorithm, yes. Everyone has their functionality programmed. Moreover, take galvanics, for example. It's quite a serious tool, and it was talked about a lot today.
Without galvanics, nothing will work.
How does galvanics affect everything? What happens first? Without galvanics, the client remains, but not with us because we are not operating.
Well, yes.
So the client will stay. It doesn't matter to them what product to buy.
But when the client leaves, everything else will stop working.
Yes, we simply won't be able to supply the client.
Without the client, there's no point in all of this.
Yes. Next. Well, what's interesting there, right?
Well, let's get rid of one of the managers because people there.
And it's very interesting, getting rid of managers. A manager, not from the word hand, doesn't lead. A manager still performs certain functions. They are responsible for the process they lead. If there's no manager, the process is chaotic. So it will have a direct impact? Yes. Let's take the stamping manager. So we no longer have stamping. We don't have further assembly because we didn't supply the products there. Yes, we can service. The coordinator will work, the fleet, the administration. But the factory doesn't function because of the direct connection.
Yes. In general, this stand demonstrates that the company ROTA is a large organism where everyone has an important role, starting from the janitor and ending with the director.
Including the paramedic.
The client. And all these are links in one big chain. All of this is interconnected, and it's very important to visually demonstrate all of this to the employees. I really like it. It's a cool concept. I've never seen anything like it. It's truly impressive.
A huge thank you to your company because the colossal success we've had over these 3 years was brought by the company Alutech. So for your company, for the professionals, the approach, hooray.
In general, this eventful day has come to an end. Thank you to the company ROTA for such an awesome event. There was just a lot of useful content at the factory, a lot of information. The event that took place in the restaurant was very fun, full of emotions. In general, just super overall. Guys, if you enjoy this content, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Write to me in the comments saying, Artem, make more of these lively, cool vlogs, trips to some events. So goodbye, everyone. Thank you for your attention.